Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk about Black History Month, the month that is a celebration of my people, because I am a black man and everything. And it's about all our accomplishments, all the oppression that we have gone through over like centuries of living in like America and stuff like that. So I'm here today to talk to you about Ironheart Season 1. So, just like with Wonder Man, I had no intentions of really watching this show, period. However, I was still curious to see how exactly they were going to have a TV streaming budget to create that of an iron suit, doing all the cool Iron Man type stuff. And so no matter what, I was still intrigued and I was gonna watch it, but I debated if I really was gonna watch it. Unlike Wonder Man, because with Wonder Man, I saw the trailer and it's nothing but Disney Marvel baby humor. But like when it comes to that of Ironheart, Riri Williams, I've never been a fan, to tell you the truth. And I think I've mentioned this before. Like I don't read comics, so I don't know what the world she's doing in the comics. So my bias is not towards the comics. My dislike for her actually comes in the animated series and movies that Marvel used to make. Called, I think it's called Marvel. What's it called? Marvel Now? No, Marvel Rising. That's it. Now I like a couple of their projects, not all, but just like a couple. But the one about Ironheart, I just did not particularly like. Oh, okay, let me clear this up. One, I know it is not Black History Month. Duh. It is not February. But if you've ever watched my channel, then you know for certain like characters or celebrities or shows, if it has a central theme, then I add it to that celebrating month or and stuff. So like because Riri is that of a black woman, I decided not to add it to Women's History Month, but for that of Black History Month. Because how often do you see that of a like black-led series on Disney Plus or Marvel in general? Unless it's gonna be something with the word Black Panther in it. You know what I'm saying? Plus, it's my channel, and I can do whatever I want. So no, I haven't lost my mind. They're all like, well, it's July, not February and everything. But anyways, back to Marvel Rising, I just particularly never liked that character. I didn't like that movie. I didn't really like the story arc. I just did not care for her. Then there's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And once again, I still just did not care for the character and everything. Like, I don't understand why she was added to that movie. I don't understand why they're trying to base her tech now on Wakanda tech. And I just didn't like, that interpretation and stuff. But nevertheless, like I said before, I was not really interested in this series. But then later on, I was still kind of just a little bit intrigued. I was hoping this series would change my mind. And it has and everything. I'm now somewhat Riri like fan and everything. I'm not like a huge fan, but I'm there and everything. I'm curious and stuff. Also, when it comes to this series, it's actually better than I thought it would be. I was worried because there was no marketing for it. Because I didn't particularly like Riri in like Wakanda Forever. And Marvel just kind of like, okay, let's do the whole like Echo thing. Let's just dump this and everything. But instead dumping it all in one day, which I wish they would have, instead they separated it. 3 episodes came out one week, and then the following week, the next 3 episodes came. Making a total of 6 episodes, and there I have a problem. I am tired of this 6 to 8 episode arc that Disney Marvel Disney Plus shows get. It's too short. I'm an old-fashioned person. I like 20-something episodes a season. If you don't give me that, then I'll do the British European thing and I'll take 10 to 13. This don't even have that. It just has 6. And 6, yes, they did tell a story within that 6 episode restraint, but there was still a lot more to explore that they needed more additional episodes for. Like I said before, this series is better than I thought. However, that does not mean this is a perfect series. It has hiccups here and there. It has hiccups in the writing. There's little to no action in this show. There's little to no action Iron Man isms in this show, or and stuff in this show, other than flying around and having the suit open and close. I mean, that's literally it. The suit opens and closes. You see the little visor face screen thing. It flies around, and that's literally it. I don't even think not once did we ever see any like laser repulsors shoot out, which I don't understand that. We saw a little tiny saw, but that was about it. And so that lets you know right here and now, they don't have the budget for that. And originally, Ironheart was supposed to be a movie developed in 2018, but then later on, they decided just to add the character to the Wakanda Forever, I guess to test it out and everything. Now, if I had to compare this to another show, a Marvel comic show, it will probably be that of Freeform's Cloak and Dagger. This is the closest comparison I can see to that. However, Cloak and Dagger was a heck of a lot better. They just didn't really have a budget to do the magical power, not magical power, like the superpowers and stuff. However, the strength of Cloak and Dagger was in its storytelling. It had a vibe to it. The way they executed episodes, story arcs, plots, narrations, they had a vibe to them. So this is on par with Cloak and Dagger. However, Cloak and Dagger is, in my opinion, a heck of a lot better. I think Ironheart is way better than Secret Invasion. That was just a mess. I think it's better than She-Hulk. It's way better than Agatha All Along, because I still think Agatha All Along was pointless. And now we finally have Mephisto, but he wasn't in Agatha All Along. I have some gripes with that. In terms of the other Disney Plus Marvel shows, I don't do the whole what if thing, so I've never really finished that, but from what I saw, I don't like it, so in my opinion, it's better than that. I've never watched Loki, so I have no idea what's going on in that show. WandaVision and Hawkeye and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is better than this series. As for Miss Marvel and Moon Knight, I don't know, because I was very disappointed in those shows. Like, just disappointed. I was disappointed in Moon Knight because I wanted him to be slightly closer to that of the comics and also have it be an action series. They promised us dark and gritty action, and we never got that. They just shied away from it and added Disney Marvel baby humor. But however, we did get some action in the form of hand-to-hand combat, and whenever we did towards the end, it was awesome. Miss Marvel, I'm disappointed in the lead actress' inability to act. The story kept shifting around from place to place, and nothing really seemed consistent. I would have to say probably Ironheart is probably better than Miss Marvel, probably, but I did learn a bit more with Miss Marvel. However, with that inconsistent formula and everything, Ironheart suffers from the same Disney plus Marvel formula. That is, they establish stuff in the very beginning of the series, which keeps you intrigued. Then, somewhere towards the middle, they skew off course and go in a completely different direction. And then, the second to last episode, our hero kind of discovers who they are or what they want to be, and they might get their costume in the second to last episode or the last episode, and normally the last episode is the big battle. However, in this series, the big battle really did not even happen in the sixth episode. However, it still follows that format. Introduction in the beginning, skews off course in the middle, get the new suit towards the end, and there you go. I am tired of that formula. It's been like, what, 6 years and they're still doing it? Like, do something different. Like, just do something different, man. That's all I ask. In terms of acting, the acting is split for me. Some acting is really good. Some is just okay. Some is passable. But one person in this show, I feel like cannot act. And I'm gonna be just like I always am, like honest, because if I can criticize The Rock for his bad acting, if I could criticize the Miss Marvel actress for her bad acting, I gotta do it the same here. The only exception is I don't critique underage people's acting. I leave them alone for the most part. But yeah, there's one person acting in this show that just irritated me. I hope that person gets better, just in general, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm rooting for this person. And so this show also had its criticism from the anti-woke mob. Of course, the bigots were all over this show, even before it came out, which these bigots are just hypocrites, and they're not even, they never tell the truth. First of all, they ask for original characters. Instead of like, bending people here and there. Now, I will say this, yes. I was surprised that a lot of these characters are actually from the comics. However, when it comes to Parker's gang, everybody has been either race bent or gender bent or both. So for that, it's not original. However, Ironheart, her family, her friends, they are all from the comics. Yet these people are still complaining. And the question is, why? Why are they complaining if Ironheart, her family, and her friends are all from the comic and for the most part are pretty comic book accurate with some slight alterations here and there? So if they love comic books so much, why are they complaining and screaming woke and everything like this and talking about it's a disaster? I've seen the thumbnails. Instead of one face palm, this one dude did 2 face palms and talking about, oh, it's worse than what we thought, and all this other BS racist crap that they always do. This show actually got review bombed before the show came out on and so on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score was originally 31%. That was completely false. This show has not even came out at that point in time, and yet they review bombed it. There should be something against that. Like that should be like I don't know, like Rotten Tomatoes need to fix this. Networks need to get on Rotten Tomatoes and these little anti-woke mob people for doing this crap, because they're trying their best to hurt this show only because the lead actress is a black woman, and that's the only reason why they're hating on it. Because what other excuse is there? A lot of stuff about this show was tight-lipped and everything. Because I had no interest in this show, I never looked at the cast. And when I did look at the cast, I'm like, oh, wait, I recognize a lot of these people. A lot of them are people of color. A lot of them are part of the LGBT community and everything. And so, but most people didn't really know that. And so I was watching this one guy's channel who always debunks things from the anti-woke mob. And the thing about the anti-woke mob, they have done this before. I've witnessed this back when I used to watch their channels for Star Trek and everything. They always claim they have insider knowledge. Maybe a few of them do. That maybe they're able to weasel out somebody to rat the television series out. But like they claim that this show is the worst thing Marvel has ever created. And with that said, you know that's a lie because Secret Invasion is literally the worst Marvel Disney Plus series ever. I don't think not one single person liked that show. It was dry, it was boring, it didn't have no good cameos in it. It was a god awful show and I hate it to death. Lots of people hate that show. So there's no way in the world Ironheart, executive produced by Ryan Coogler himself, the man who gave us Black Panther, the man who gave us Sinners, there's no way he was going to create a colossal failure. But these people claim they got their insider knowledge and everything, and it's the worst thing that Marvel has ever created. And not only that, but this other person mentioned that there's a street gang of like Robin Hood like thieves that are all diverse, either in terms of gender, terms of race, and also members of the LGBT community. One person is a former drag queen, and this other person, while not stated in the show, they are stating this person as a male, is actually a transgender male in real life. And prior to this show release, you didn't hear nothing about that. And the dude who debunked things, he's right. Because normally they would be all over this months and months in advance, and yet they never were. And I doubt that they were scared of the embargo lifting rule restriction thing and stuff like that, because you know these people don't care. Because let's not forget, X-Men 97, it was revealed by the creator that Morph is non-binary. They went to town on that. And because Morph is best friends with Wolverine, they lied and said that Wolverine is going to be gay in the series and be in a male-on-male relationship. This never happened in the series. Yes, Morph would kind of flirt with Wolverine, but Wolverine just thought, oh, it's just friends being friends, and didn't think nothing of it. There was no messaging, there was no nothing. Technically, Morph did kiss that of Wolverine, but dressed as like a woman because he has shape-shifting abilities. And so, like, but Wolverine is as straight can be in that series, and they lie. And that's what they do. They lie to build up this, like, hate campaign to push whatever agenda they want. And it is no different here. Now, after discovering this street gang of like, you know, diverse people, now they're going to town on this and everything. And it's embarrassing. It's disgusting, and it really needs to stop. These people need to stop, like, you know, grifting off the system. They need to stop lying to their audience and everything, just so they can make a couple of YouTube bucks to pay their light bill and everything. And they literally are trying to ruin a series all because it has a black person in it. And we all know deep down inside they don't like black people. And some of them, they have to continue this bull crap, because if they don't, their fan base will literally turn on them. And I can't stand when people lie, like The Undertaker lying on like trans athletes and stuff like that. But like, these people always have the insider knowledge. Like when they say Kathleen Kennedy is fired from like Star Wars, and they've been saying that for years, and she still held her job. She just got demoted and everything. Or like Star Trek Discovery, oh, it's getting canceled because of like the Paramount and like Netflix and blah 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 aren't agreeing. And the show lasted for 5 seasons. And it's just like, I'm so sick and tired of these people. But to review bomb something because you don't like the lead actress, That's messed up. And the lead actress has never done anything to nobody. And when they asked her about like those hateful people and stuff like that who normally try to ruin shows, she just blew past the question and didn't even really acknowledge it and everything because she didn't want to engage and give them a reason to hate on her. But it doesn't matter because they're gonna hate no matter what. Now, the show was created by Chinaka Hodge. I have no idea who that is. But one thing I've noticed about this show, it is very diverse and everything, all down to like the stars and even the writers and directors. Because like the cast is like primarily people of color and they're like primarily female, and there's also some LGBT people in there. There's also some LGBT characters in there. The writing staff, let's see, is all female except for two men, and they're all black except for one who might be Latino. I can't really tell because it's kind of like a black and white photo. They only have two directors, a male and a female, and they're both black. So this is the most diverse thing Disney Plus has really ever created for the most part. And so like the character of Riri, she is very flawed. She is flawed from left to right and still making mistakes even towards the end when it ends on that of a cliffhanger. And I like flawed heroes because I don't like perfect heroes. It's nice to have a blend. However, if you're gonna be flawed, you better make it up in the end and do something very, very heroic and everything, or something perfect. However, in this series, it ends on a cliffhanger, and not only does it end on a cliffhanger, but she made a deal with the devil. Well, devil in terms of Marvel Comics, Mephisto and everything. And I'm just kind of like, y'all better hope you get a season 2. Because if not, when is this cliffhanger ever going to be resolved? Not only that, but like, she might show up in another MCU project. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? I doubt she'll get her own movie. Maybe she'll show up in like one of those Avenger movies. Maybe she'll show up in Champions. I have no idea. But they better hope that they get a second season, because if not, it's going to end on a cliffhanger. Because how often does a Disney Plus Marvel series get a second season? They're now just talking about a second season of Moon Knight, but nothing is official. I think Loki and What If are the only ones to ever get like a season 2. And of course there's Daredevil, but that was already greenlit no matter what. So like I said before, this ain't traditional television show, so ending something on a cliffhanger is not always your best bet. But you know, when it comes to Riri, I've wondered what took so long for the MCU to bring her in. And then it dawned on me, it's because they literally tried to replace her twice with two completely different characters. Back in 2013, Iron Man 3 introduced the guy on the left. I forget his name, but he's a made-up character. Basically, he's smart. He's a little bit of a genius, and he knows some things about tech. In that movie, you know, him and Iron Man like bonded and stuff like that. And I remember thinking to myself, how come that couldn't be Riri? Like, that was the perfect time to bring her in. Iron Man 3. Dominique would have been 16 around that time. So that would have been a perfect like older age for like this younger character, not having her in college and stuff. Then they scrapped that character because there was really no purpose for him. But then they brought him back for Tony's funeral, and the actor literally wants to play Iron Lad. No, thank you. But anyway, then they try to replace her again with that of Peter Parker Spider-Man. Once again, here's a person who's mentored by Tony Stark. He's really smart. He uses Tony's technology to build his own suit. And it's kind of like, why couldn't that be Riri? They literally tried to replace her with two white males and everything. Because back in 2013, there were no black-lit superhero movies in the MCU. Black Panther hadn't even came out yet. I forget when the second Avengers movie came out. But Civil War, I don't think even happened around that time. And like, because I know Endgame came out around 2018, 2019 or something like that. And so, like, Hollywood and the MCU was still under the impression that black don't sell in like the theaters and stuff. But then they found out with Black Panther. And it's really jacked up how they legit tried to like replace her by giving her giving these other characters certain traits that like she had and stuff. Now I was very curious to know what the world is this show even gonna be about, because I don't know much about like Ironheart other than like she's short, she builds a suit of armor, and she looks up to Iron Man and stuff. And she has an AI, Tony Stark, which they've changed for this because there was no way Robert Downey Jr. is gonna do a Disney Plus series with like, the money they're gonna offer him and stuff. So they had to tweak around that. But I was really curious to know what the show is going to be about. It's very grounded, street level and stuff. And they do add like, the magic stuff to kind of get you a little bit more oomph and hyped and stuff. But like I said before, there's little to no action in this series, and there's really no Iron Man-ish type stuff that people love to like see when they used to watch an Iron Man movie. And that's very disappointing. However, you're still engaged in the story because you're kind of curious to know how it's going to end. However, like I said before, this show does have some flaws here and there. There's no character development for half the cast, and it's a pretty big cast and everything. But there's really no backstory that much. It's what you see is what you get, with a hint of backstory. And when you spend literally 6 episodes with these people, you kind of want to know a little bit more about them and everything. Like, that doesn't fly for me. Like I said before, I'm used to like 20 episodes. I'm not used to a 6 episode format. And if you're going to give me a 6 episode format, you better literally give me something to invest in these characters and stuff. You better tell me something more about them other than a little snippet and everything. And you better get straight to the point, which this series, for the most part, does get straight to the point. But then, like I said before, they always skewer and kind of like go in a different direction, only to come back to their original direction and stuff. When it came to that Parker's motivation, I kind of figured it had to do something like with a family member. And the reason why he's doing what he's doing. And so, like, it's just weird because it's like, okay, you have 2 separate supporting casts. One supports Riri, the other one supports Parker. The one that supports Riri, they're the ones with the most character development and backstories and this and that. The ones who support Parker are literally just there. And it's kind of like, if you was just going to have them just be there, why in the world didn't you just create brand new characters instead of grabbing them from the comics? Because when people see certain characters come from like comics and stuff like that, they get curious, they get invested. Some people are fans of them, and most people want to see them at least in their costumes and stuff. And if they're not in their costumes, then it's kind of boring. Which here, they don't really do costumes. Only really 1.5 people do costumes in this series. Not only that, but now if they use these characters in any future project, They have to have this person act and look exactly the way they did in this series, unless they decide to alter them, like Crossbones, but he was in the movies, or something like that, you know. And so it's kind of disappointing in that regard. I rather them just create their own characters, and like that way they can just be a typical Ocean's 11 type, like you know, villains and stuff like that, instead of people that have a very distinct look to them, like Slug. Slug is an extremely overweight person who wears sunglasses and is confined to some type of mechanized wheelchair type thing. Here, nothing whatsoever. And like, I'm trying to think, there was something else I had a problem with. Um, I would have loved to have a final battle. I mean, the main villain and the main hero don't even really duke it out. Then the secondary main villain and the hero don't even duke it out. I want to see them duke it out. You know what I'm saying? Like this minor villain slash regular person, they had a battle with the hero. And of course, like you know, the Robin Hood gang members people, they had a fight with the hero, but out of costume. And it's just kind of like this tells you they did not have a budget and everything. They literally had no budget. And you want them to have a budget. When you have an Iron Man like suit, you want it to do an Iron Man type thing. I mean, you know, I'm used to watching like Power Rangers and VR Troopers and stuff like that. And in VR Troopers, you know, it was based on Metal Man and like the people who wear the mechanized suits. Yeah, it was very 80s looking. Like, you know, you can tell they look very plastic looking with some fabric, you know, so they can move around. But at least they did stuff, man. At least they were shooting lasers and having swords and flipping around and you know, and like, at least they was able to do that and fly around and everything, old fashioned, put them on wires and swing them around and stuff like that. At least they did that. But the CGI suit was pretty good, but you can tell it was a CGI suit. And so like um the practical suit looked pretty good and everything. Now there's two different versions of the suit. I'll get into that a little bit later. One thing I like the title card sequence. It was very creative and always kept me interested to know how it's gonna look different for each episode. The music was good, the vibe was good. They actually filmed in Chicago for the setting and everything. Now, Chicago's normally a stand-in for New York. The first Spider-Man movie filmed in like Chicago and stuff like that. And so that was really cool. It looked different. I get tired of all these Marvel movies, sceneries and set pieces and locations always looking the same. And so, yeah, once again, I would have to put this on the level of that of Cloak and Dagger. Like, it just reminds me of that, like, low level, like, you know, grounded, like, urban type show and stuff. So, gonna get into some characters now, which there are not that many and they really don't do much. Jim Rash plays that of a professor at MIT. He literally only has a cameo. Why? This dude is hilarious if you ever watched the show Community. This man deserved a heck of a lot better than that of a cameo. Xavier is the brother of Natalie and love interest of that of Riri and everything. He's a very down-to-earth, calm, level-headed man. Which, by the way, I appreciate that, like, this show, while being, you know, very diverse with, like, a black cast here and there, I'm so glad I did not hear the N word. That's one thing that bugs the crap out of me when I watch a black show is hearing that word. And Marvel has been known to use it before. They used it in Luke Cage, which was on Netflix, which is a completely different thing. The MCU Disney Plus Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. While I did not watch that series, I watched like a trailer and the background music they used the N-word. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. A cartoon, a Disney one at that. So I am very glad they did not use the N-word in this series. I assumed they would and everything. Also I like seeing like a well-mannered black man and black people in this series. I get so tired of seeing like these off-the-wall ghetto type people loud and acting a fool and everything in a lot of television series and movies. There should always be better representation, and I am so glad that this character is one of them and other characters in this show. And so, like, he is, like I said before, the love interest of Riri. And, like, him and her get along very well until he finds out she created his dead sister in the form of an AI hologram. And he pretty much loses it. And I'm so glad he did because you do need to see a different emotion from this guy, especially when it's that of his dead sister. We really don't know how he felt about his dead sister dying. We know how Riri felt about it, but we never really got the sense of how he felt about it because this show doesn't have much character development and backstory and stuff. But like he did get angry and just completely distance himself from her for about an episode or a couple of hours until he saw a note she wrote years ago giving him a gift, oh no, weeks ago giving him a gift. And all of a sudden he turned around and wanted to help her out. And I'm just kind of like, come on, you need stakes. You need drama. If he's mad that you resurrected his dead sister in the form of a hologram, let him stay mad. But he literally just forgave her. And I'm just like, come on, man. Cree Summers as Madeline Stanton. So I'm not sure if she's from the comic. I know the daughter is. Cree Summers, who hasn't heard her voice? I've heard it in so many cartoons. Elmira always comes to my mind. Foxy Love from Drawn Together. She was on a different world. She doesn't do much live action. It's mostly just voice work. So it's always nice to see her in live action. And I've noticed the way she dresses in this show is just how she dresses in normal life. So I hate when people play themselves. But she is a person who has dabbled in magic, witchcraft, stuff like that. And she knows who Mephisto is. Now, when you see her in the first episode, you don't really get the sense that she's into magic. But then, of course, in that halfway mark and everything, in episode 4, it's fully established she's all about the witchcraft and stuff. And she has a shop that she runs with her daughter in a pocket dimension. And when she realizes where Parker's cloak came from, she won't say the person's name, but she doesn't want nothing to do with this person because she knows Mephisto is extremely evil. In Marvel Comics, he is technically the devil and everything. Zelma, her daughter. So Zelma is actually from the comics. I'm not sure if she has purple hair or not in the comics. I can't remember, but she does have those big glasses. And in the comics, she's a librarian who people come to when they want to know about like magical stuff. And so this is kind of, tweaked in the comics once again, though she's not a librarian. Riri and her mother, they go to the shop to find out like this and that. And so she's the one who's mainly doing the witchcraft. And I like her calm demeanor. Like she has this nerdish like vibe to her. And so, she helps Riri figure out, who this big entity is, this big evil. She thinks it's Dormammu and everything, but it's not. And so she also infuses, Riri's suit with magic. Now, towards the very, very, very end, in the end credits, we see Parker try to enlist her to help him out. Whether or not she knows exactly who he is I have no idea. And everything. If she's gonna like join his group and turn evil, who knows? You know what I'm saying? But she was kind of like a cool character, but I really was not expecting them to go skew into this whole magical thing, you know? It just kind of came out of nowhere. Riri's mother. So, her mother is an extremely understanding person. And it's kind of interesting because Riri's got to be nowhere. She's probably around the age of, like, say, 19, 20, something like that. And so her mom just lets her do whatever. Never asks like where you going, why you been out so late, who's this strange man looking for you and everything, why the police are at the door and everything. And I've always wondered, why the heck is she so like understanding and like totally okay with everything, totally okay with her daughter's dead friend being a hologram, then wanting her ex-husband to like be a hologram and everything, until you get to that fourth episode and she finally started to be a mother. She started to help her daughter out with her problems. They got into arguments and everything. She put her foot down. I'm like, it's about time she started acting like a mom. However, what's really shocking and surprising, she lets Riri cuss her out. I'm just like, okay, if you are a black person, then you know there's one thing and one thing only. When you're growing up and you have a black mother, they don't take crap. They do not take crap. You either gonna get slapped in the face, beat with a belt, beat with a shoe, get yelled at, get ground, like whatever. Like you gonna get it. Especially if they're a single black mother, you're really gonna get it then. Because they feel like they have to be the mother and the father to give you that butt whooping. But she just completely let her talk the way she does to her. And so she gives Riri the means to build a new suit. How exactly she built it from a car, I don't understand that. The stepfather, whose name I don't know. But anyways, similar to that of the comics, he dies in a drive-by shooting and everything. In this show, he is very understanding, very caring, and very sincere. I like seeing that, especially with that of a black father, because, I didn't have one, and like, they're normally not always portray good, both in real life and in like television and stuff. Unless it's like in a sitcom, then they're portrayed very well. And so he died in a drive-by shooting, which really broke that of Riri. Also, her friend died that same day in the same accident and everything. And he is the reason why she builds or one of the reasons why she builds the metal suits. Because it's kind of like a Batman situation. She wishes she could help, but no, she couldn't. So she builds a suit of armor to always protect her loved ones and everything. Also, he is the reason why she bases her armor off of Iron Man. She doesn't even like Tony Stark. But because her stepfather really likes him, then that makes him happy. So that's why she does what she does. It's completely different from the comics. I get it for the message that they want to tell in the show, to give like the stepfather a little bit more of an arc. But I do kind of wish she emulated and admired that of Tony Stark, like in the comics, because that's just how it was and everything. But I also understand that since Robert Downey Jr. is not going to do a Disney Plus show, then they had to make some alterations, especially with the next character, Natalie. So Natalie is from the comics, and she does tend to wear yellow a lot, and she died in a drive-by shooting. I think it happened in the park instead of a garage. And so this is Riri's best friend. Sometimes I got the vibe that Riri liked her a little bit more than just a friend. Sometimes I got the impression that Riri might be buying the show, but they never stated. However, after doing some research, she is buying the comics and everything. And so Natalie is played by Lyric Ross. And this woman is awesome. She is hilarious and she's my favorite actress on the show. Give this woman a sitcom, seriously. And so after she died, of course, Riri uploaded her thoughts of how Natalie was and stuff. And it's pretty impressive how Riri was able to do this because she wasn't able to scan the brain waves of her dead friend. She was able to scan her own, and she pictured Natalie to perfection in that of the personality and everything. That shows you just how much in love Riri was in for like her best friend. And just like she said, she watched both of them bleed out and everything. Natalie has a very upbeat personality. When she realizes she's an AI and she wants to go somewhere, but Riri will not take her, she literally hacks the computer and is able to travel through Wi-Fi connections and stuff like that. She thinks she is real. Like, she knows she's a hologram and an AI, but she feels like she really is Natalie and stuff. And she wants to be treated like a normal person and stuff. Kind of reminds me of the Doctor from Star Trek Voyager, but they didn't go into big detail of him wanting to feel like a normal human and everything. You get snippets here and there with the Disney baby humor, but it works and everything. Like, she's always there for Riri, but then her memories are a little fuzzy. There's certain things she can't access. She doesn't even know how she died and everything. And this is stuff that Riri tried to block out her memory when creating her and stuff. And so we see she has emotions and everything. Like when Xavier wanted Natalie deleted, Riri contemplated that, and that pissed Natalie off the way she stole the suit and just took off. She tends to steal the suit like a lot. Why exactly is her face shown in the visor when they do the holographic thing? I have no idea. Because technically she should just be like in the suit through all this circuitry and everything. But she gets kidnapped and is able to free herself. If this was a longer television show, they would have stretched this out to be more enjoyable and everything, other than her just breaking out in a few minutes and stuff. However, something odd happened. When Zelma did like the magic spell, put it on the new suit, the AI and the magic conflicted with each other, and Natalie was essentially deleted somehow. And the question is how? It's never been explained. I believe Mephisto did this just so Riri would be tempted to make a wish and he can grant it for her so he can do his little veiny face thing and stuff like that. Okay, Parker's gang. So let's start with John, his cousin, played by that Manny Montana. I recognize him from an NBC show with Christina Hendricks. I forget what it's called. But anyway, he's always playing like this thuggish gang type characters and stuff. But he is really good with knives and he's not afraid to kill somebody. He throws knives and stuff like that. He is the most loyal person to that of Parker because that is his cousin. He'll help him out no matter what. He'll even try to talk him out of a situation and everything whenever Parker's not thinking clearly. He looks older than that of Parker, but Parker is the one calling the shots, mainly because of the cloak he wears. And so, John, he's very angry and stuff. If you cross him or Parker, he will handle you and stuff. Most likely, he is the one who killed Rampage, probably. Oh, it was probably, what's his name? Parker. But anyways, it's like when Clown starts to play around with the Hood's cloak and everything, He literally smashes her face down on a table. And he literally he could care less about who you are. Now, he's never like Riri. And with that whole heist thing, basically, when he found out that she was never in the suit and that she could be some kind of mole type person, they kind of like have it out. And she leaves him there to die because he suffocated. Or did he and everything? Supposedly he suffocated. We never saw really like no funeral or nothing like that, but we have to assume he is dead. Rampage, he is from the comics. He's just been race bent and doesn't wear glasses. The actor who plays him, thank God this dude is not in the show for long. I've never liked his acting. He was on Two Broke Girls. Oh God, he got on my nerve. Although he was pretty good. And something B in Apartment 20B or something, whatever that was called. He's like the tech expert who does not do a very good job and gets replaced by Riri, then later ends up dead. Clown is from the comics, but this has been gender bent and race bent. Or maybe gender bent only. From the comics. And like all we know about her is that she falls in love too quickly and she likes blowing stuff up and burning stuff down. She likes that of Zeke, and she lies for him when Parker suspects that he might be lying because she knows Parker will kill Zeke and everything. She's the one after, like, this is the thing that don't make no sense. When she is recruited to kill Riri and everything, I'm surprised she wants to kill her because of the death of John. She don't like John. She had her head smashed in. And so, like, but Riri tells her, look, Parker killed Rampage and everything, blah, blah, blah. So she's the one who has Slug look into it and confronts Parker about it, which pisses him off and fires everybody. Now, when it comes to the team, the game team, I get you have to have expertise to be on this game. However, some people have the same ability, and I don't understand why you would need two people that does essentially the same thing, and some powers don't make no sense. She has no magical powers. She just blows things up with technology. I don't know why you'll need a pyrotechnic to be in kind of like a heist type game. Like, I don't get that. Slug looks very different from the comics. Race bent, and Slug is supposed to be a very overweight man with sunglasses because he's very sensitive to sunlight and everything and light in general, and it's in some type of mechanized wheelchair. This Slug has been reinterpreted as a former drag queen and like a tech expert in the form of like software and stuff. Now, if you have a person who's really good with tech, you would think they'll be really good in software. So once again, I don't know why you'll have two people who can basically do the same thing. And so like, because I don't understand why he needs Riri on the team. Yeah, she has a mechanized suit, but she don't do nothing with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Except for that one time, that's about it. So I don't understand why she's there. But anyway, what I was gonna say, and yeah, he's really good at like, you know, what is that called? Hacking into like computer software. When Zeke got upgraded, he changed the administration thing to make that Parker the administrator and not that you know, Zeke the person and stuff. There's no hand-to-hand combat skills, and they're kind of just like, hey, whatever to any situation, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, the show doesn't have much character development or like backstory. The blood siblings and everything. They're a little bit, well, actually, they're way different in the comics. They're two brothers. They have magical, not magical, but I keep saying magic. They have superpowers. They're like really strong and this and that. Here, they're just normal humans who like to fight and like street fights and everything, and like back alley, like cage fighting type stuff. And so you have that of trying to think of the names. You have Jerry, played by Zoe. How do you say the name? Um, Teammates. That's how you said the last name. Um, no, T Rakes. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. I recognize this person from a show called Creamery. Now they are a non-binary, like transgender man. In the show, they just go by like man. So, hey, like all these people complaining about messaging, there's no messaging here. And so, like, um, trying to, I was gonna say, they're Greek, and they're either from New Zealand or Australia. I can't remember which. And the other one is Roz, played by Shakira Barrera. I remember her from a show called Glow. Now she's from Nicaragua, and they are like, well, European ancestry, black, indigenous. But with the last name Barrera, she has to have some Latina in her and stuff. Now she's been gender bent for the show and everything. And of course, Jerry is not transgender in the comics. I'm not even sure if they're transgender in the show, but played by a man. Now, when it comes to these two, they are the fighters. They're the muscle of the group. And it's like, here's my thing, right? You're good in cage fighting, I'll give them that. But they're able to clear out an entire security team and everything when they do this one heist, and they literally just whoop their behinds with ease. However, when they have to go after Riri when she's not in her suit, they have the hardest time fighting her, which is weird because Riri has no fighting skills. Riri is literally ducking, bobbing, weaving, throwing stuff at them, hitting them with stuff. They will hit her with like a punch or like this big, like massive kick that sent her flying. And if they have no superpowers, how the heck did Jerry kick the crap out of Riri? And how is it she's able to only have like a bruise on her face and that is it? She should have been like taken out with that kick. But I still don't understand how Jerry was able to kick her halfway across the room. Not only that, but the most hilarious thing happened in that one heist. So when the security system clicked on and they trying to like get through the glass, Ross picks up a chair to try to break the glass. Okay, makes sense. They see that, it's unbreakable. Yet for some reason, Jerry is trying to break the glass with their fist. Now, you saw a chair could not break the glass. What the world makes you think your fist is gonna do it? Parker, played by Anthony Ramos. And so he is known as the Hood in the comics. He has a magical cloak type hood, and he shoots like two guns and stuff. Not sure if his bullets are magical in the comics, but they are in the show. In the show, he has the power of invisibility with the cloak. In the comics, the invisibility it has invisibility and teleportation. Now, there seems to be a difference as to who and how he got his cloak. In the comics, it's a different type of demonic race. I forget their name. I think it starts with a Z or something like that. And he basically stole, like, the cloak from this demonic race and everything. In the show, Mephisto gives it to him after making a deal. He is the leader of the gang, and basically he is like Robin Hood. And so they steal from the rich and they give it to themselves. And with their money, yeah, they will probably give it back to the poor in some way or another. Like Clown wanted to, I think, build schools or something like that. And so the thing about him is that he steals from these really rich tech people. Tech people that's actually hurting like the black and brown communities and stuff. Like with this one woman building like a highway system or tunnels in like this one black neighborhood and stuff. Like he stops them from doing that. So basically he destroys whatever it is they have, and they refuse to sign over. Well, no, what is it? He makes them sign over their company to him, and if they refuse, he'll destroy it, or he'll just like destroy it, whatever. And so he's doing all that, and things kind of go badly when they're doing this. What is it, like a plant type laboratory or something like that? This is when Riri tried to figure out what the cloak is made out of, because it gives him all these gnarly veins all over his body. The cloak is doing something bizarre to him, and it's literally affecting his body and his personality. And so we don't really know why he's doing what he's doing, but I do kind of suspect it has something to do with the family member because of one line of dialogue. And that is true. It's his father. Now, John, his cousin, dies by the hands of Riri when she just lets him suffocate and everything. He later finds this out because the demonic entity that gave him his cloak let him know that and everything. So he has to play it up like he doesn't know, but he really does know, and later puts a hit on her. So why is he doing this? Daddy issues. When he was 12, his dad just got rid of him, put him on the streets and everything. And he had to survive on his own, but then later found John and everything. And so basically after his mom died, the dad just decided, I don't want you no more. Now why? Why this is such a cliche thing to do with big tech company like fathers, mob bosses. They always just get rid of their kids and they're like, hey, I don't want you. And so then the kid always goes for revenge. This happens in like every type of show and movie. It's getting old. But basically his dad is filthy rich and everything, wants him to sign over the company. And so after some threats here and there, his dad finally does it. And now he gets all that he wants, but he's still not happy. It turns out that years ago, he tried to sneak into his dad's place, but then got caught and John had to save him. And then later on, Mephisto found him and he made a deal with the devil. Basically, he's all like, he's your typical comic villain, to where he just wants money and power and stuff like that. I appreciate that. He's not for world domination. He just wants to survive and everything and be pretty rich at that. And so Mephisto has him think big and everything. Be like, look, man, clothes make the man. Now let me give you this like cloak and everything. But it's doing something to drain him of his energy, and it makes him literally turn demonic when he fights Riri in a very brief scene. To where he looks almost like Morbius and stuff from the movie. But anyway, Riri gets the suit from him, and he's in agony and pain because he said he has to have the suit, blah, 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 blah. And then towards the end, he tries to recruit that Zelma. I like this villain. Like, he's pretty cool. He's not the greatest comic villain or nothing like that. He's just believable in a grounded type show. You know what I'm saying? Once again, Marvel does have a villain problem, but he's okay and everything. He's the smooth. Like, he reminds me of Flag Smasher. Always trying to persuade somebody to do what they want and stuff like that. Pretty like slick when they talk to you and stuff. Thank God, no philosophy. That drove me nuts with Flag Smasher. But he's literally just a poor person who wants to get up in the world. And just like all poor people, never happy. I mean, all just like all poor people who literally steal to be rich, they're never happy. Zeke Stain. So he's Obadiah Stain's son, and yes, he is from the comics and everything. This character is very peculiar, and I wish they would have had more episodes to flesh him out better because his character development does seem very rushed and everything. They do avert your expectations, making you think, okay, he's gonna be evil, but oh no, wait, he's just like a dopey guy. But then no, wait, he's kind of evil, and then it's kind of like, wait, what the heck are they doing with the writing of this character? He's not very consistent, and they're trying to be a little too clever by throwing you off. I wish they just would have made him straight up a villain and everything because it's kind of flippy floppity of how they do his character. Basically, the story with him is that he lives in this suburban area in a nice house, and like he doesn't want nobody to know that he's related to Obadiah. Because he knows that his father was a supervillain. Now, this character has never been mentioned in all the years the MCU has been around. And so I hate when they do that, but it is a nice way to introduce a character who's technically from the comics and, stuff like that. And so, like, he knows his dad's a supervillain. Now, this is what don't make no sense, is that the news believes that Obadiah was a good guy and that I guess he's either still alive or died in a plane crash or still alive, I think. How is this possible when you would have known that Pepper or Tony Stark would have spilled the beans on Obadiah, or at least Rhodey, or at least somebody else? And not only that, but if the world thinks he's a good guy, why is his son living in secrecy and everything? So I do believe people do know that his dad was a bad guy, but just certain news channels just refuse to believe it. And so Riri finds him because she's looking for parts for her suit, and she looks on the black market, which is, what he's doing. And that's pretty comic book accurate in terms of that. Now, in the comics, he has a vendetta against Iron Man. In the comics, I've seen two different versions. Him wearing like a black iron suit with like these lightning coming out, like the repulsor areas, and also him just having like techno-organic tech in his body and shooting out lasers similar to what they do on the show, and his head being shaven just like in the comic. And so like when he first meets her, he is a dopey guy, you know what I'm saying? Like he's a bit manic. He said people constantly using him and everything, and she uses him, and then she tells him to assert himself and grow a backbone, and when he does, he blackmails her and stuff. He has a problem with his neighbor because she brings the dog in his yard to poop, and at one time you think he's gonna go over there to kill her, but instead he just messes with her flowers. This is making the audience think he's just a dork and everything, until he does start to act a little villainous. He starts to operate on himself because, he's all about wanting to save people with the techno-organic technology and everything, and he tested it out on his arm. Pretty bold and pretty rushed. And so, like, you think him and Riri are probably going to be like love interests or really good friends, or he just might be a nice guy and never turn into a villain. When she needs help with trying to get Parker's cloak, they can't take no metal in like the facility of that laboratory because it will go off. So he gives her some of his tech and tells her straight up, don't leave my tech behind because that'll be pretty bad. Well, of course, she leaves it behind. He gets arrested and he's pretty pissed off and everything. He doesn't want to really talk to her, and now he's going down that villainous route. So it's like, okay, I get it now. I'm feeling this, you know what I'm saying? And so Parker wants his expertise and is going to replace Riri because of the death of John. He breaks him out of prison and he upgrades his body, looking very similar to the comics with like, the little dots on his body, shooting out lightning, this and that. no suit of armor for him. And so now all of a sudden he's villainous because he has all this pent up rage and all this other stuff. He fights Riri in the suit and whoops her behind, tearing her suit up. But he doesn't kill her. Instead, he lets her go and tells her, like, we're even and it's best you get out of Chicago because Parker is going to kill you and blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of like, oh, wait, hold up. So he's not evil? What the heck? So when Parker starts to, question him and everything, this is when Clown lies for him because she has a crush on him. But yet she never talks to him, even though she has a crush on him. I think she talks to him once, but it's never in a lovey-dovey kind of way. The writing has to get better. So anyways, Parker takes over his nanotech and everything inside of his body, his organic tech and everything. And so basically, Parker tells him, like, look, man, I control you. He tries to kill Parker. It doesn't work. He's all like, you're going to kill everybody I don't like. So one of those people, of course, when he sees Riri, and he's all like, look, man, if Parker finds out you're alive and I let you live, he's going to kill me. So I got to kill you. And once again, he turns back villainous. But anyways, it's a really dopey fight in her new suit where she's trying to override like his tech by kicking him in the nuts. And so after that, she puts him like in the freezer. He busts out and she's all like, I didn't mean to do this to you. I hope we can still be friends. And he's just like, and this is where I don't like the dialogue. He's all like, I have all this pent up anger. I have all these superpowers now. And I'm contemplating what I should do with them. And me and you are not square. And I'm just kind of like, make up your minds. Is he evil? Is he not? Like, just make up your freaking minds with this guy. This is why they need more episodes and stuff. Because most likely we'll never see this guy again if they don't get a season 2. Mephisto, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, I think that's his name. He is Mephisto. Mephisto has finally showed up after about 6 years when fans assumed he'll be in WandaVision, when he gets name dropped in that of Agatha all along, and he shows up in an Iron Man-ish type show. Weird. He should have appeared in Agatha all along. He's supposed to be this big evil demonic entity with like all these like magical powers and this and that. He likes to persuade people into making a deal with him, making a deal with the devil and everything. And I truly believe he is the one who got rid of Natalie just so Riri would make a deal with him and everything. For the most part, he's played pretty okay. I don't really like the humor in him, but that's only because of the actor and everything. I wish he did not look human. I wanted him to look like his demonic self from like the comics. He should have never been in this show. If he would have showed up in Agatha all along first and then later in this show, then I would have been okay with it, because then it's kind of like, okay, he's established as being very evil in Agatha all along and persuading people, and now he's trying to recruit young people into making a wish and making a deal with the devil and everything. Now, when it comes to the actor is very controversial because of these personas he plays in movies. However, Rebel Wilson has accused him of some pretty heinous stuff. In one movie, he constantly kept trying to get her naked for like this movie, and she kept saying no. But then something happened when they was in a room or like a closet, and apparently he tried to do something to her or wanted her to do something to him. And she said no, and she said she'll never work with him again. Now, this has been well known for about a year. After she made those allegations, his wife straight up left his behind, divorced him. Either the wife has heard similar allegations but only now chose to believe, or maybe she knew something. Who knows? Either way, I'm very shocked and surprised that Disney allowed this guy to stay. Because we all know with Jonathan Majors, All it took was one allegation, one video, one court trial, and that dude was gone, and so was Kane. Seriously. Now, when it comes to Rebel Wilson, however, she doesn't always tell the truth. She's been found guilty, well, not guilty, but she lied about her name. Rebel Wilson is not her real name. She later had her first name changed to Rebel. Her real name is Mulaney, I think. She lied about her age and I think her upbringing and stuff. So she's not exactly a truth teller. But so don't really know how to feel about this whole situation. Riri Williams played by that of Dominique Thorne. So in the comic she is bisexual and in the show it's up in the air. She is a super genius, a prodigy and everything. We first saw her in Wakanda, and I did not like that suit they gave her for Wakanda Forever movie. That was an ugly suit. In the beginning of this show, she's at MIT on like a grant from Tony Stark. And something happens to where she loses it, and so she takes her suit. They said, oh no, she's stealing our tech, but she paid for it with her own money. Her suit is pretty functional, but it always tends to mess up. So much that like it crashes and parts fly off it and she crash lands. So the most part, she is looking to rebuild her suit. And she's gonna need parts and she's gonna need money. And so what does? She gets recruited by a gang. And so because of this, this makes her very flawed. She is essentially a criminal, which now all of a sudden the anti-woke mob care about black representation being portrayed badly on screen and criminals and stuff. Oh, these grifters, I swear to God. But yeah, so she joins this gang and she helps them with their heist and she's getting paid for it. But she also needs parts for her suit. She went to Rampage, the guy she replaced, knowing he would never help her out. But he's dead, and then later she went to Zeke. And so while there, she's just like, doing her thing. She has anxiety and everything because of her friend's death. She misses her friend, she misses her stepfather. Her AI is tend to get on her nerves, even though that's how she programmed her with that of Natalie's personality. And it's now making me start to wonder, did Natalie really act that way, or is it just the way Riri imagined her to act and everything? Because when you do see flashbacks of Natalie, she doesn't act the way that AI Natalie does. And so, like I said before, they had to tweak it for the show because they couldn't give her a Tony Stark AI. Plus, in this version, she does not even like Tony Stark. That does bug me because it's kind of like, it's just kind of like, couldn't they just keep that from the comics and everything? But like I said before, there's no way Robert was going to do this show, so they had to find a way around that. But at least they still got the AI in the Iron Man inspired suit. And so her anxiety, I do like because it makes her vulnerable and stuff like that. She cares about her friends. She cares about her family. And when she lets, John die, she fears the worst for them. Making them watches that gives them, force fields and everything, even if they hear a gunshot. And so, this causes her mom to finally get suspicious and wonder what the heck is going on, because Riri is now sleeping with her suit on and ready to bust in at a moment notice, ready to blast somebody. Does her suit even have weapons to it? I honestly don't think they do and everything. But they keep posing like they do and everything. She loves having the AI around because that gives her the comfort and the ease of mind of having her actual friend there. The only problem is she has to treat her kind of like a child because Natalie wants to do this and Natalie wants to do that. And she just can't do all that because certain people know she is dead. And they see her walking around town like Xavier, then they're gonna freak out. Um, she tries to cut ties with the gang and everything. Once she starts to realize that, not everything is as rosy as she wanted to be, and plus she's getting the parts that she needs from like her suit and this and that. She will use a person, just like Zeke said. She used him and everything to get what she wanted, and it made her very selfish. And when she gets blackmailed, she's just, oh my god, like you turned the tables around me and everything. But once the team turns on her, this is when she kind of goes into superhero mode because she knows she has to stop Parker and everything. With the death of Rampage and everything, she realizes, her family will never be safe. So she goes to Zelma and everything, find out about magic, find out who this might be and this and that. I still don't know how she was able to hold her own with the blood siblings. There's no way she's not physically able to. And then in the suit, she gets her butt kicked by that of Zeke, and to where he destroys her suit, feeling defeated and this and that. Her mom and her friends give her some words of encouragement, and her mom gives her a car that they once owned but had to get rid of and got back. And this is what she makes her new suit out of. I'll get into but this is on I don't understand it. Like, how in the world was she able to make an Iron Man type suit out of car parts and everything? That don't make no sense. I know it's a comic book show, but even that don't make no sense. Because all of Iron Man's tech was highly advanced. How are you gonna make an Iron Man suit out of a car? How is a car gonna fly? How is it supposed to have supposed lasers? I don't get that. I don't even care if this is a comic book show. Like, how that don't make no sense? You take a car, you can't make no transformer type suit. Now, technically in the comics, yes, Iron Man and Rhodey did have cars that turned into suits, but it was still Tony's technology that did all that. She don't got none of that no more. Unless she still has some of Zeke's technology and everything. And so, like, she fights a little bit with that, the Hood, and she defeats him very easily, but then she gets persuaded by Mephisto and everything. And he's all like, everybody wants something, so what do you want? So he reads her mind and realizes, you want like Natalie and everything. And then we see a flash forward. Now, before I get into a flash forward, let me talk about the suit. In the MCU, Riri has had a total of 3 suits. The Wakanda one that I hate to death. That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Then there's the one she made herself. It's big, it's bulky, but I kind of like it. You get used to it. I mean, you have to get used to it. It's in 5 episodes and everything. And it's a nice mechanized suit. Then they give her new suit at the end of episode 5 and then episode 6. Now, Riri costume in the comics, there's been a couple. One is your typical Iron Man looking one, red and gold. But then there's one, her color schemes have always been black, gold, and purplish pink. In the show, they just make it black and red for some bizarre reason. For some reason, in movies and television shows, whenever they try to make black metal, it always looks like rubber for some reason. So her new suit looks like rubber to me. The design is okay. I don't like the things on the shoulders, and I hate the boots. It's regular boots attached to like these 2 wheels on a rim. It just looks weird, and it makes her look weird when she stands up. I don't like that whatsoever, and I wish they would have gave her the color scheme from that of the comics. Because, I don't know, the whole red and black thing, what is up with the MCU always giving Miles colors to other people? They gave it to Tom Holland Spider-Man, and now they gave it to her. I do like the fake out when she's fighting the Hood. I forgot she does fight the main villain and everything. But anyway, when she's fighting the Hood, the suit like implodes and everything, and she's left vulnerable and everything. But it's a hologram. That's a nice twist. So as Mephisto is doing his thing and trying to figure out what she wants, we see a flash forward. And in the flash forward, see, here's the thing about Riri. In the comics, there's a picture of her wearing a red midriff and black pants. They kept it consistent with her, where a lot of shirts she wears are mid-drifts, just like in the comics. I like that. However, for the longest time, they never gave her her signature hairstyle. She has two in the comics. One is kind of, I don't know what it's called, where it's like the side of your head is shaved and your hair flops over on the other side. She's never had that in the MCU. As for her curly afro, they finally give it to her in the last episode in a flash forward. So if they get a season 2, we'll get to see her afro finally. Because they given her like braided like pigtails in like the MCU. And so here she meets Natalie again. She's back. Her advanced AI system. She's happy. It looks like she wants to kiss her, but instead they hug. Natalie's kind of confused, wondering what the heck is going on. And all of a sudden, Riri can touch her, but she doesn't know how. She's trying to figure that out as she's trying to figure out magic. I believe what Mephisto did is similar to the holographic system in Star Trek. It's heart-like constructs and everything, either that or it's some type of organic metal, and they just put her consciousness in there. So it ends on a cliffhanger. Now I have to get into something I said I was going to address in the beginning of this video. I have no ill will towards Dominic, no shade whatsoever. However, her acting does not do it for me. When I watched Wakanda Forever, her acting did not do it for me for there. I later found out she auditioned for the role of Shuri, but lost out to Letitia Wright. And after seeing her performance in Wakanda Forever, I'm like, oh, okay, that's how she felt her audition. Like, she would not have made a good Shuri. Now she's giving her own show, and honestly, I was not feeling her acting whatsoever. A lot of her cues were off. A lot of her comedic timing was off. Her acting ability just was not there for me. Now, she does have a few acting credits, but not many. So it's like, okay, she's still new and upcoming and stuff like that. But so is Lyric. Lyric has a couple of small credits as well, but Lyric has the benefit of being on a television show for at least 3 to 5 seasons. I forget the name of the show. So she's able to like learn how to act as time goes on, whereas Dominic has not, because she's never been in like a television show for like a long period in time. She needs acting lessons because it's just not doing it for me. Same way the Miss Marvel actress cannot act. And just like I said with her, they need to be able to carry their own show. Not only that, but they're going to be added to movies. And just like the Miss Marvel actress, she was put in the Marvels and her acting did not get no better. Here, it's like, look, I don't understand why you're going to cast somebody who acting ability isn't all there. They have to be able to lead their own show. They are the lead star. If your acting's not that good, then really they ought to should have been casting a different role or just something else, or not altogether. I'm rooting for her, just like the Miss Marvel actress. Like, I'm rooting for both of them to get better in their acting. But there was couple of scenes in this show where her acting ability just took me out of like concentration because it was just not there. Once again, no shade, is just, you know, if I can call it out on The Rock, if I can call it out on the Miss Marvel actress and other people, I gotta do the same thing here and everything. And it's one of those things where the director should really be like, okay, let's do this line again and again, and however many times it takes just to get it right. So all in all, I thought it was a pretty good show. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible at all. It's not the worst thing Marvel has created. I don't care what those grifters say and everything. It was a pretty decent show. It was grounded. It had some interesting characters. It had a pretty consistent storytelling until you get to like the fourth episode, and it kind of does a tangent and everything. But that's just the Marvel Disney formula and everything. If they come out with a second season, I'll watch it. Because I am curious to know what's gonna happen. They need a bigger budget. I want to see some Iron Man isms in there and stuff. Like I want to see Iron Man suits do Iron Man-ish type stuff. You know what I'm saying? Other than just fly around and open and close. I want to see some lasers. I want to see it punch. I want to see it, fly in a very dramatic way, being chased, something. You know what I'm saying? Because clearly they don't have the budget to do that. Happy Black History Month, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.